Welcome back, everyone. In this short lecture, we will talk about the neuron. So the neuron, when we talk about the neural system is made up of two types of cells. One of them is called the neuron, and the other type of cell is called the neuroglial cell, Glial. So it's called the neuroglial cell or neuroglial cell as well as the neuron. But the only one of the two that is electrically excitable is the neuron, which is what we're seeing in this picture down below. The arrow shows the message of the direction of the signal where it kind of comes in this way into the dendrites. The dendrites comes from the Greek word dendra, which means branches, and it's going to bring information here into the soma, known as the cell body, and then the information exits this way through the axon. And then at the very, very end of an axon are axon terminals, like going to the airport. You got to go to the terminal, which is all the way at the end. And at the end of the axon terminal are these bulbs. They're called synaptic end bulbs. These end bulbs contain neurotransmitters. And at the end of the synaptic or the axon terminal where we have these end bulbs, they're going to synapse or connect with something else. So let's say this is going to be muscle. This is what allows, let's say this is, I'll put an M here for muscle. The nerve impulse has to make it to the muscle to make the muscle to contract. But there's something that's here at the synaptic end bulb that needs to be released as a messenger to communicate with the muscle to make the muscle contract. It has to be some neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitter is a chemical messenger. And that chemical messenger is going to be a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, ACH, acetylcholine. And we'll talk about that a whole lot more when we get into neurophysiology. I just want at least to lay down some framework so at least you hear these terms once before getting into muscle physiology. All right, what else is important that I want you to pay attention to with this neuron? So we have the dendrites, we have the cell body, we have the axon. And at the very end, we have the axon terminal, where we have the synaptic end bulbs all the way at the end that store these proteins called neurotransmitters. Notice that the axon has this type of insulation. You see these, this is insulation. Each of these is a Schwann cell, SCHWANN, Schwann cell. These Schwann cells produce myelin. What is myelin? It's like cholesterol. It's made up of cholesterol, it's made up of fat and cholesterol. It's an insulator that protects your axon. This myelin is really important. It is involved in speeding up the conduction of these action potentials or nerve impulses that travel here. It's an insulator and it speeds up the action potential to go from here all the way to the end. There is a disease in which the body can attack the myelin and break it down. That disease is known as multiple sclerosis, MS. MS is really a demyelinating disease when the body starts to attack its own myelin. So you start to get this misfiring of nerve impulses. Typically, the first symptoms that show up with MS target the smallest muscles in the body, which are around the eye. So people with MS typically get like visual disturbances. And then it kind of goes to the legs, where the legs feel a little bit heavy and like tree trunks. They get poor coordination. They trip over their feet. That's what MS kind of looks like. Okay. When we talk this Schwann cell, by the way, this Schwann cell is a type of neuroglial cell. There are many types of neuroglial cells. The Schwann cell happens to myelinate within the peripheral neural system. And there's another type of neuroglial cell called an oligodendrocyte. And the oligodendrocyte does the exact same thing as the Schwann cell, except it does it in the CNS. And that's called an oligodendrocyte. Oligodendrocytes myelinate in the central neural system. So they produce myelin around the brain and around the spinal cord, whereas Schwann cells produce myelin in the peripheral neural system.